Active tanking is no better or worse than buffer tanking. It's just different. On the small stuff, generally it means you can get more EHP, but you also have to attend to the details of what you're doing with your tank. It can go wrong in certain ways too, if, for example, you get alpha'd. In this fight, to kick us off, I'm flying against Casper 24, who's an excellent pilot, a lot of fun to fly against. He's in a Blaster Atron, and I'm flying a dual rep cap-injected Brawling Maulus. Because I've used two of the low slots for active tank mods, the Ancillary Armor Repper and the Standard Armor Repper, I have one left for damage control, but I don't have an enam or anything like that. My resists are not great. He sets up at 5 to 6 km away, and he's using the fall-off bonus that the Atron has, and he's doing pretty good damage. I'm attempting to manage my active tank, not over-rep or under-rep. Every time you over-rep, you waste either cap or charges of paste, or both. Obviously, if you under-rep, you die. Things are a little bit close here. I may have cut it closer than is wise. But my tank is holding, and I'm able to cap boost on time, and I'm getting good damage into him. I've left my AB heated too long. I was presuming he would try to close with me, and I would try to build distance, but I misread the situation. And here, I over-rep, and I've got too many mods heated, and as a result I burn them out. This over-repping has cost me cap, and the burned out mods mean that I cannot fight Beamdog and the Incursus coming in. If I'd managed the heat a little more carefully, and the repping a little more carefully, I may have also been able to kill him, because the Incursus is slower than the Maulus I'm flying, and I could have scram-kited him. Tanking modules come in 4 different flavors. There are 2 major shield boosts that you would use on frigate-sized ships and 2 major armor boosts. There is the normal flavor, and there is an ancillary flavor. The mechanics between the ancillary shield booster and the ancillary armor repper work a little different. But for now, let's focus on the normal shield and armor repper. No one uses the small shield boosts because they don't tick hard enough. So people make fitting space, and if you're going to shield tank with an active tank, they use a medium shield booster. 13 power grid, 58 CPU, and it consumes capacitor every time it ticks, and repairs your shields. And small armor repper likewise, 6 grid, 6 CPU, consumes capacitor, repairs armor every time it ticks. All of the shield boosters repair at the beginning of their cycle when you click the button, and all of the armor boosters repair at the end of the cycle once it's wrapped all the way around. This is something you need to keep in mind when you're trying to time your reps with the incoming damage. The ancillary boosters have a different mechanic. The medium ancillary shield booster consumes an enormous amount of cap and ticks harder than the normal shield booster. You can load it with cap boosters, and when you do, it consumes no cap at all. This is a pretty big deal in frigate-sized fights where cap is scarce. The small ancillary armor repper still consumes cap, but you can load it with nanite repair paste, and when you do, it ticks harder. You can get 9 cap boosters in a medium ancillary shield booster. You can get 8 paste in a small ancillary armor repper. The medium ancillary shield booster, as it ticks down, when it gets the last one, it'll run once without any booster, kind of wreck your cap, and then go on reload. Sometimes it's worthwhile to stop it before it does that last one unless you have tons of cap to spare. The small ancillary armor repper will do the 8 bonused pulses, and then it'll automatically go on reload unless you have that turned off. You can run it without paste, it just repairs less. This isn't exactly true, but it ticks roughly twice as hard as a small armor repper when it has paste, and roughly half as hard when it does not. Generally, the thing to do is to turn off the auto reload and run it without the paste and get all the benefit you can out of it in a frigate fight. The 1-minute reload is too long in frigate fights. You won't last that long. Of the four modules displayed here, the small ancillary armor upper is by far the king. You get a ton of effective hit points out of it for a very small grid and CPU cost. And so if you're flying around faction warfare space, what you'll find is that there's lots of active armor tank ships, and they're running the SAAR. The medium shield boosters tick harder than the small armor reppers, but medium slots are at a premium. If you're planning on brawling or scram kiting, you're going to need an AB, a scram, and a web, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of slots for shield tanking. So you might have just a medium ancillary shield booster as all of your tank. So it does tick harder, but you have less slots left over. Having spare low slots is more common, and so you can build sort of a more sturdy armor tank despite having a module that doesn't tick as hard. And then the other thing that's worth noting is that the active armor tanking has, I think, better rigs than shield tanking. So if we look at the small auxiliary nano pump, it doesn't take that much calibration, and it makes the SAAR tick quite a bit harder. It's really common to see fits that have two small auxiliary nano pumps, and then a polycarbon or a DPS rig. If you want to bolster your shield tanking with rigs, you can get resist rigs, but they're not quite as good as something that just across the board increases your tank amount.
Active tanking has a number of different errors that can occur when someone who's using an active tanking mod is trying to get the most EHP out of them. I like to think of them as unforced errors and forced errors. Unforced errors are mistakes that the person who is repping can make, while forced errors are mistakes that the attacker can force the defender to make. Unforced errors include things like under-repping, so you're taking DPS, you turn your repper on, some moment you turn your repper off, DPS keeps coming in, and you die with charges or cap left available when you could have done something about it. Over-repping is running your reppers when you don't need to, and you waste either cap, or paste, or cap boosters, and sort of run yourself out of resources for no good reason, and then it comes apart later because you've wasted resources you would otherwise need. If you're running a cap booster and multiple active tanking mods, if you did not bring enough cap boosters with you, this one can be a problem. You can burn out modules, like for example, ancillary repper, normal repper, cap booster, and if you do, obviously you're going to have a real hard time keeping up your active tank. And then if you let your ancillary rep go on reload, you obviously can't do any repping with it. On the forced errors side, alpha coming in can interfere with your active cap. So the most extreme version is whoever's attacking you does enough alpha that you die instantly in one shot and you have no chance to rep. That's a little extreme. It won't happen in frigate versus frigate fights. But it's very possible to, say, have an active tank armor frigate that gets alpha'd for all of its armor and some of its hull. And then it rips back up, and then it gets alpha'd for all of its armor and some of its hull again. Where the hull's getting chipped away, you'll reach a point where you die despite having charges left. Cap pressure, especially in frigate fights, is a big deal. Most frigates don't fit a cap booster. Most frigates have a pretty short runway of cap. Maybe a minute is pretty typical for active tank, and so if someone's running a newt, it can really make a very, very big difference in the active tank of the defender. And then the last is just DPS. If your DPS is higher than their flat-out active repping, you can burn through their reps before they're able to get them all out.
In this fight, I'm flying my Magnate against a Mollis Navy issue. He's going to have more DPS than me and more tank than me, so I'm going to want to get the maximum possible tank I can out of my active reps, in addition to flying in such a way that I minimize incoming damage. He ends up being small beam fit, which I did not expect, so I have to switch my orbit. And as I pulse my reps, you can see that I'm going to turn them on, turn them off again, and then turn them on again, all the time making sure to heat to get the maximum output. I'm going to spoil the fight a little bit. This is not a fight I win. It might have to do with target selection, but I do get the maximum possible value out of my small insular armor repper. If I had guessed he was beam fit, maybe by looking at his kill board ahead of time, I could have started with a better flying strategy. Saved a little bit that way. If I had exile running, that would have given me a little more. So it's not that the fight's unwinnable, but one of the steps is getting the maximum possible reps out. So I'm getting low now. I've achieved an orbit around him. The beams are doing less damage, and so I'm repping slower. Coming down to the unpasted reps, which tick much, much less hard than the pasted reps, but there's still value in them. I have the small insular armor repper not set to reload, so I'll still be able to rep with it once I run out of paste. It does a lot less, so I'm in pretty big trouble now, but I got about as far as I could with the setup I had. Better flying strategy next time, drugs, what have you. Of course, things don't always go perfectly. Sometimes we under-rep. Sometimes we don't get the reppers turned on in time and die with paste available when we've still got some sort of active EHP in the tank. In this flight of Magnate versus Vigil Fleet issue, we kind of dance around a little bit out at 13, 14 kilometers. I'm not real sure what he's doing exactly. I know there are some Vigil fits that want to engage at that range. Probably it's real bad for me if we do. I take some drone damage to start. I get a little drone damage on him. And then he comes in. It turns out he is normal Scram Kite fit. We engage. And I realize I'm in big trouble. Press the rep button. Don't actually get even a single rep. Obviously not optimal. That last fight was about as bad as it gets. No reps successful. This one, I do okay, and then at some moment get distracted and let my reps come apart. So this is me fighting Thrasher in my Magnate. I'm attempting to orbit out at 8 kilometers to minimize his autocannon damage. And I had an over-rep right there, so I'm trying to make sure I don't over-rep. I unheat. I'm thinking about repping again. Damage seems coming kind of slowly. And then I decide that I'm going to make sure there's nobody in local that'll be a problem. And I check D-scan. There's 2 Jaguars coming in. Potentially coming in. Maybe that's dangerous. I want to align out. Nope. Lost track of my reps. You can also make an error by over-repping, repping more than you need to, wasting paste, and then getting yourself in trouble. This is a fight of my Magnate versus an Executioner. And here I'm pulsing, and I'm going to over-rep just a bit. You can see it goes to full. I wasted a little of the EHP. Here comes another rep. And again, all the way to full, so I wasted at least a little bit of the EHP. Here it's going to pulse, and I waste almost all the rep, and then it's going to pulse again, and I'm going to waste almost all the rep. So there's 2 full, wasted, pasted reps. I decide I want to close with him because I'm afraid he's going to get away. I'm not really noticing that I've been doing a bad job tanking. That one was fine, maybe a touch late, but no wasted rep strength. And it ends up being just enough. But if I had wasted maybe another rep, that might have been the trick. When you're flying bigger stuff that has cap boosters, one of the problems you can run into is, do you have enough cap boosters? And obviously, nobody can carry an infinite number of cap boosters. But sometimes you leave station with an insufficient number. You get in a big fight, you forget to reload. I'm running this clip at 2x speed because it's a little longer. We're fighting in bigger stuff. You can see me managing the reps, turning them on and off, managing the drones. He's actually splitting damage between me and my drones. I'm trying to keep him alive, trying to keep damage on him, trying to make sure to cap boost on time. We're neuting each other. We're both putting damage into each other. We're both running reps. He's running shield reps. I'm running armor reps. I have tons and tons of repping capacity left. And right there, he runs out of cap, and all of his stuff shoots off. He can still shoot missiles at me, but can't rep, can't AB, can't scram, can't web. So he's in a lot of trouble. He told me later that he didn't have very many cap boosters in his cargo hold, and that was why he lost the fight. You can set your ancillary armor reppers to auto-reload or not to auto-reload. If they're not set to auto-reload, they'll run 8 pasted reps, and then they'll just run reps from then on that tick for less, but still do some repping. If you have it set to auto-reload, when it gets to the end, it will keep running until you stop it, and then it goes on reload, and you can't run it again for a minute. I don't have a good clip of me losing a fight because I did that. Part of my sort of pre-fight checklist is to make sure it's not set to auto reload, but I think this fight is a good example of the sorts of things that happen in frigate fights. Lots of frigate fights are very, very close, and having it set to auto reload is like a checkbox. I would like to lose all the close fights. It's not. There's zero chance you'll ever, in a frigate fight, get that reload off. It's strictly bad. You'll notice here I don't put my drones on him. That would have helped. I do consume exile. I do have my guns heated. I do have him at appropriate range. He's flying a strange dual rep Tristan fit. But I'm having a real hard time breaking through, and he's still getting good drone damage on me. I'm running out of paste here. Things are getting low. I finally have my drones on him. Pretty close, but I'm still successfully repping, and I just barely get him because I didn't have my SAAR set to auto-reload. The 280 double web RFF is the T1 frigate with the best alpha. It's very strong fighting against things with active tanks. They have a hard time to get all the value out of their reps because of how hard it is to interact with the alpha from the 280 artillery. Watch this first volley on the Atron. The rocket lands. He's attempting to rep. He's attempting to react. The double web also gives you a lot of range control. But here comes the second volley. And he's already lost most of his hull. He's repping as hard as he can, and the third volley's about to land.
Here's me fighting RFF against RFF, and again the fight's going to be dominated by volley. Watch. He's got some shield. I lose some shield. Next volley hits, he loses a bunch of armor, reps. Next volley lands on me, I start the repper. Next volley on him, he's into hull. He reps, he should have started earlier. Next volley lands on me. Next volley lands on him. And that's going to be it for him, because of the ability of the alpha to cut right through the active reps. Frigates have very little cap and an active neut in addition to having to tank. It's very, very hard on the cap of a frigate. Here I'm flying a brawling neuting RFF against a dual web RD RFF. We started at 0, he's pulling range, but I'm putting DPS into him and I'm neuting him, and he's going to run out of cap. And right here it happens. One of his webs stopped working because he got neuted out. He's not going to be able to active tank anymore. I'm able to get on top of him. And that's all she wrote. Here I'm flying a brawling slasher against an Incursus. The Incursus, of course, is very tanky, has a bonus to active reps. And it's got blasters. Blasters do great damage compared to autocannons. And my plan is to establish a very, very tight orbit that interferes with both my tracking and his tracking, and then the newt rep him out. So let's watch how many active reps he gets off against this setup. He's putting damage into my buffer. So I'm losing shield. He's losing some armor. One active rep. Two active reps. Hit a little over rep there. And he's just hit the point where he's running out of cap. I'm unheating so I don't burn anything out. And he's got no cap left. And he got 2 of his 8 pasted reps. The Beam Tormentor and the Beam Executioner are both great platforms for delivering just a ton of DPS. Small beams do great DPS relative to frigate EHP. He's flying a double web kestrel with armor reps, and so he's able to get off some reps. I'm actually over-repping a little bit here. But he's just having a real hard time keeping up. The amount of throughput he has compared to the damage I do doesn't let him get the full number of reps, and so his effective EHP was lower. Here's another fight with Beam Tormentor against a Fed Navy Comet. And it's sort of the same story. The Fed Navy Comet's got good damage, but he starts his reps too slow, and he has a hard time to keep up with my DPS. I don't notice that he drifted out of range here, and my Scram and Web are off. I get the Scram and Web back on. He's trying to keep up. He gets about 3 active reps. That's all she wrote.